Woke up this morning, sunshine through the clouds, feeling the healing, laughter all around. Rise up and stand tall, joy in every stride. No more tears to fall, let your spirit guide. Blessed go summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems. Hear the drums calling, dancing to the dawn. Keep on believing, strength in every song. Blessed go summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems. Hear the drums calling, dancing to the dawn. Keep on believing, strength in every song. Blessed go summer, shining through the.
Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Blessed Girl Summer podcast, and we are continuing our chronicles on being a graduate student pursuing my marriage and family therapy license. So the last time, if you check the episode, the last time that I did an episode, we were talking about how I'm ending my program, how I was ending my program. I was like terminating with clients, what that experience was like, what my full internship was like. And y'all, we were waiting to get the results from my National Marriage and Family Therapist exam. And I am happy to say your girl passed on the first try. Okay. Listen. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm so excited about this. So this podcast, we're gonna talk a little bit more about me passing, what that means, what my next steps are, how it was to wait, and all these things. So I do want to share. I want to start with this exam is really hard. When I first started my program, around the time when I first started my program, I joined a group, which I highly recommend if the group is still in existence. It is a face when you're viewing this, it is now. But my hope is that these chronicles will be available and around for a while for anyone who is interested in pursuing their marriage and family therapy license. There weren't a lot of YouTube videos that I could find that represented who I was. And so my hope is that this will be available to you. So whenever you're watching this, if this Facebook group is around, I highly recommend you joining it. It is started by a woman named Carrie, and she's now has, I think, a couple of people that work with her, Kayla, but it's called Failing is Not an Option. Okay. So join the Facebook group. They'll give you more information about all the resources and ways in which they help people stay encouraged, stay motivated, study for the exam. So back when I first started for my program, I had joined this group. I stumbled upon a group. The group had just started. I felt like it had started like 4 or 5 months prior. And one thing that was abundantly clear is that a lot of people were failing this exam. I would hear people like, this is my third time taking it. Somebody posted today that they passed this time, but that was the 10th time that they took the exam. And so 10 times may seem extreme, but it's like I've heard ranging between 3 to 5 times taking this exam before you actually pass. And so this exam comes with a dollar sign. At the time that I was taking it, it was $370. So can you imagine constantly having to pay that to get your license? So I do want to say that jump started my journey. I was just like, your girl, I don't want to be taking this over and over and over. I think it sparked in me the necessity to be prepared and to start sooner than later. Right. And so I went into my graduate program with the mindset that passing this test is the goal. Like, yes, you're taking these courses, you want to do well in the courses, you want to pass, you want to do all those things. But the goal was always passing the exam, because in the state that I live in, Well, in any state, you can't get licensed if you don't have your marriage and family, if you don't pass this exam. However, depending upon the states, you may still be able to practice even though you're not fully, like, you're not licensed. And so in my state, I wasn't even able to see clients after my internship ended. So your girl was like, I need to pass this exam. Okay. So I passed the exam, y'all. So in the other episode, I talked about how I just don't even really remember. Like, I just went into a vortex, and it was just like 4 hours of like case vignettes, and like I'm in the case conceptualization world, right? And so I'm conceptualizing these cases. I'm trying to figure out what is the best thing to do, what's the first thing I need to do, like all the things, trying to answer all the questions. And I'm really honed in to the fact that there are multiple scenarios that are happening, and training my mind to leave certain scenarios behind. So what I would tend to do, one of the things I had to work on, and I'll give some tips. I don't really, honestly, I don't feel like, I don't know that these tips that I'm giving you are going to, I can't guarantee anything, right? Are going to help you pass. The exams are different. So there's, I think, like 4 versions of the exam. So you never know what version you're going to get. Um, But I think I'll tell you what I did. I'll tell you what I did, and you can take from that what's helpful for you and what's not. And I think it's also important to know yourself, right? So let me roll it back. So when I was joining that group and I kept seeing that people were failing, I went throughout the year, because my program was like almost 2.5 years. So I went throughout that first year. A lot of that was foundational stuff. So like learning the theories and um, like understanding those things. And so I took a lot of notes. Not only was I doing my, not only was I doing my like homework and my reading, but I was also taking notes. And then what I would do is like, along with my class, there's this other YouTuber called Steph Anye, and she broke down a lot of the theories, right? And so I remember before I even started my program, I was watching her videos. So I had like a slight idea of some of these things that they were talking about because I had been watching her videos. But as I began to take my courses and we began to touch on different theories and different concepts, I would also, in my free time, align watching her videos to that so that I could have a really good understanding of it. And so I'll say I took notes from her videos, but it was also like building upon the information I was learning in class and the papers and things that I was writing, right? So that I think really helped me have a strong foundation, which is going to be really important for this exam. Like there are so many theories. There's just so much stuff that you need to know. And so you really need to have a good foundation in those things. And so I think that that was really helpful for me as I began to progress. Like when I got into, and I always stayed a part of this group. And so on this group, they would post like test questions, like sample questions, right? And give you like scenarios and talk about reasoning. I will say when I did that in the beginning, because I didn't have a lot of foundational information, I found it confusing. Like it wasn't really helpful for me. And that's just because I'm the type of person that I have to learn it right the first time. Because if I learn something and I'm like misunderstanding it, it is more challenging for me to relearn it the right way. And so I'm pretty guarded or particular about like my study time when I get ready to study, because I know that like I'll retain it and absorb it a certain kind of way. And if I retain it, absorb it, and it's a wrong way, it's like double work trying to get me to understand it in the right way. So I just kind of just perused through, and I prayed that this group would still be around by the time I take my exam. I told her, me and her had a call one time, um, when I was calling her to like ask for studying strategy. And I was telling her, girl, I was like, girl, I prayed you was still doing this thing. And it was free. It's free. It's free. At least it was free when we did it. Um, so From that point on, the group would refer their would share their study materials, different things that they used to study. So by the time I was like a year in, um, and I was ready for my internship, I knew this is when I need to start purchasing those study materials because I wanted to. There was some things that I knew because in my program, you learn all the theories, but then there's especially when you're getting ready to go into residency, there's this emphasis on like really understanding two or three. Like what are the ones that you're going to be using? What are the modalities that you feel most comfortable with? And so that can kind of leave you not really having the muscle memory for the other stuff because you're kind of now focused because you're about to go into clinical. Um, internship. So you want to kind of be really well versed on the modalities that you're going to be using in session. So what I began to do was during my breaks. So I would go to school in quarters. And so so it's 3 months and then that would be one quarter. And then I would have a 3 week break. So during my breaks, I would be reading and I just committed to reading the books, right? And so one book, do I have the books? Um, I don't have the book right now, but um Bialoni, I think his name is. I can't find the book. Yeah, so sorry about that. I think it's in one of my bags. But there was a book. I'll drop it in the chat. His last name is Violoni. And I began to read that book. I like the way that book worked. It was like a workbook because it gave you like a summary, but then it started just asking you to write out the definitions or your understanding of certain terminology. And so it gives you an opportunity to see how much you know. And then of course in the back of the book in the glossary it explains all the things. So I started doing that during my breaks. Then I got another book, I would say probably towards the end of internship. And it's by Eli Karam and it's called Marriage and Family Therapy National Exam. It's a prep book. So I got that book, and then that book came with an online option as well. So I had the actual book, but then it was also online. So I began to then start studying online in those breaks. And so I did that all along. I'm still doing, now I'm starting to pick up with their questions and things. And so for any concepts that I didn't really understand or I didn't really feel um, that versed in, I would then go to, so the failing is not an option. They also have a YouTube page. So Carrie has put out so many videos about different theories, about concepts of DSM-5s, like all the things, right? And so whatever I felt like I wasn't understanding, I would then look on her YouTube page and see if there's a video that correlates with that. And then I would study. There's also one that I didn't use as much, but I have used as a reference is Diane Gehart's videos as well, which really, really, she goes into way more depth about the theory. Carrie's videos are more like essentials to know for the exam and ways to think about it. And so did that. So that was that. Um, but I wasn't okay. And so for ELAMs, he also had at the end of every lesson, there were key terms. And so I would write index cards for the key terms. And then in my spare time, I would look at the index cards, right? So because I'm not a last minute person, I'm not really good at cramming is not my thing. I need to have paced time to really be able to absorb information. So I took a longer route. I'm sure people have other videos where they studied in 3 months or 4 months or whatever. I feel like this was a journey for me. Now, I did do some things different the 3 months leading up to actually taking the exam, and I'll share about that. But I do think it's important to just talk about the fact that my mindset was always about the exam. And so all of the things I did when I was writing a paper, when I was reading the articles or reading the books that the teachers was assigning me, I always had this exam in my mind. And so I was just really intentional about really absorbing and learning as much as I could throughout the course. And I think that all the combination of all these things really paid off for me. Um, yeah. And so the other thing, so got his book and then was doing the online thing. And and I really what I liked about his too is that they had a podcast. So after each lesson, you would hear a podcast conversation where he's kind of talking about the concepts and he's like, and this is what, this means. And so if you had a family that did this and yada yada. And so um uh it was really helpful. It was a lot. It was the visual, it was the reading, it was the writing, it was the audible, it was all the things, right? And so I just made that a part of my routine. Um and I had also made up my mind that this was going to be a part of my routine and a part of my lifestyle. And so afterwards, Carrie also has like different like little quizzes and test things that they would do in study groups. And so I don't know what they have now, but there would be like chats where they would be dropping questions in there and people would be answering and they would be talking about the reasoning behind it and all that stuff. And so I just figured out what worked for me. The other two things that I used were Pocket Prep. It's an app. And I didn't pick Pocket Prep up until about 3 months before my exam. And I did the free version for a very long time. But I think like a month in, like a month and a half in, I upgraded to premium, and I think that was like $12. And I did Pocket Prep on my downtime. I know y'all like this girl. So my study regimen was like 3 days a week. I studied Monday, Wednesday, and Friday typically were the days that were dedicated to studying. And I studied 3 hours a day. The first hour was studying. The second hour was answering questions from a test bank that I had. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And then the third hour was reviewing the answers, like the answers that were wrong. Why were they wrong? Looking up the concepts to the things that were wrong. And taking notes because I need to like, sometimes when I'm studying stuff and I'm trying to remember it, like if I'm taking an exam, I'll see my handwriting. Like that's how I remember. So writing stuff down was really important to me. Like I couldn't just read it. I also had to write it down for it to stick. Um, and I'm an older learner too. So you might be younger, you might be quicker on your feet. But I knew that I was going, my ability to multitask has definitely changed. And so I really needed some time to like really focus. So I had that plan to do that. So on the other days, like Tuesdays and Thursdays, I had like those were my heaviest client loads. So I would in between sessions, like if I had like a space in between sessions, I would do the pocket prep. Um, if I was at the doctor's office, I would do the pocket prep. If I was just sitting on my phone, I'm like, I'm not going to just be scrolling on Instagram. If I'm going to scroll on Instagram, I'm about to do 10 questions and then I can get on Instagram. So that's how I kind of utilize pocket prep. Now, pocket prep, I felt like wouldn't, I think I was told, and I also kind of feel like it didn't really resemble like how the exam might be set up, but what it did was reinforce things that I already knew. It was really good at like reinforcing concepts and terminology and things like that, theories. And so that was helpful to me because I was constantly getting that repetition and it helped me understand. Um, and then I would do stuff like that on Saturday. No, well, yeah, Saturdays in the beginning. So then as I got closer, so my plan was to have 3 months of doing that. And then 2 or 3 weeks leading up to the exam, I was just going to be taking like prep tests. So in January, I purchased AATBS, their program, which was really, really helpful. Um, and so their program, they give you two books, volume one and volume two, which were really helpful. So when I was looking to understand concepts that I didn't know, I would utilize those books. They also give you charts for like the geniogram. They gave charts of like the theories, the different phases, the interventions, the um, theory of change, like all those things on the chart. Um, and then it just had a big test bank of questions that you can ask, but they also had what they call quizzes that were broken down by domains. So this test is broken down, I believe, into 6 domains. And so you have, so like ethics, for example, theory, for example, managing crisis, for example, diagnosis, and hypothesis, like it's broken down into domains like that. And so the prep thing for at the time when I bought it, I think I got like a Christmas discount or something. It was like 250, I think. I think I paid $250 for it. And that held me over for 3 months. Now my exam, I knew because I applied for my exam in January and I was scheduled to take it on the 16th of March. But I purchased my program in December. So 3 months, it would have been over at the end of February. And so I called them and I was just like, so, can you explain to me the extension process and like all these things? I called them in December when I first purchased it. And the guy was nice enough to just extend it. I think it would have been over. I didn't have my exact date on my test, but I knew it was in March. Um, I knew it would be in March, but I think I wanted to kind of take it towards the end of March. And I think my thing was going to end at like the first week of March. So he extended it through the end of the month, which was nice. So after that, I did the exam. I mean the prep, and then after the prep, I then oh, so yeah, so that was my plan for studying. But then I had life happens. Life happens. We had a couple of emergencies in my family that required hospitalization for some family members, and then it was like at the hospital doing other things. And I would say that happened in February for about 2 weeks. So that threw me completely off. I was like, oh no, my plan is messed up. Oh no. And so I'm so grateful to God that I had been studying all along, right? Because imagine if you only have this window and then life happens, right? And you can't control it. And so now you've depended on this particular window, right? And so that happened. And then so I couldn't do the Monday, Wednesday, Friday plan for 3 hours for the length of time that I had planned on doing it. And I felt really out of it. I was tired by the time things kind of got back to normal. So what I decided to do was I just need to focus on taking the test. So that's when I had that meeting with Carrie and I was talking to her about my study strategy. And she was just suggesting that, you've done a lot of studying. You know the material. Like now it's like understanding what the questions are asking you, understanding what the exam is asking you. And so the only way you're really going to get that is by practicing, by doing a lot of questions. So that's when it just became the question game. So I still utilize those 3 hours. I would go to the library because I didn't want to be in my house because I didn't want to be distracted, looking out the window, doing whatever. Somebody knocking on the door. So I would go to the library at least 3 times a week and I would block out 3 to 4 hours and I would be answering questions. And I would be taking the time at that time to really, really assess the answers, right? The ones that were right, the ones that were wrong. Why were they wrong? Why was this right? And do I really understand why it was right? And if I don't, then let me take it further and let me look up the concept. And I was also writing it down. I was writing down the right answer. So then that became spend the first hour going over all my notes, right? So my notes are now answers that I got wrong. I didn't really write down a question. I just wrote down the right concept. This means this, right? Or when you do when this happens, you're supposed to assess first, I wrote those things down and I would just study that until I would go through my whole notebook. Hopefully it wouldn't take longer than 30, 40 minutes. And I would go through that. Then I would take the questions. Then the questions at this point, I'm probably spending like an hour and a half, 2 hours answering questions. So on the following time that I allotted to study, now I'm going over the answers again. And so it just becomes a cycle. And that's how I studied. 2 weeks before the exam, they give you the 4 hour slot that's timed. They have two tests on AATBS that are timed. Um, and they have the 180 questions. And so I did that twice. And then for one full day, I was in that library for 4 hours and I acted like I was at the testing center. I took my bathroom break, came back, did that. Then the following time that I studied, it would just be going over the answers. Then the following time that I studied, it would be that I came into, now I'm increasing my study time. Let me also be clear. So now I'm doing 4 days a week. So now I'm spending some time studying on Saturday. I'm spending some time studying on Sunday. And it may not be, Saturday was like the full 4 hours, but not Sunday. It might just be some pocket prep, right? Um, or just watching the video, like of some things that still wasn't kind of sticking with me. So it was always some type. I had in my mind that this is my lifestyle for the next 3 months. It's all about theories, ethics. Like this is my lifestyle for the next 3 months. And so I did that. And then I also, so and in that first week, I also identified what is happening for me. Like where am I struggling? Where are my weak areas? Because the exam will also show you where you're weak, right? And so somebody from the Facebook group suggested that you go into ChatGPT and you tell ChatGPT, I'm taking this exam. This is where I'm studying. This is what I'm experiencing. So I think is really, really also important to talk about like your anxiety, to talk about your mental stamina, right? Your ability to be attentive and to maintain attention. Because I was struggling like by like 2.5 hours, my brain was like, "What is this question? Why are we answering this?" And I would find myself a couple of things that I would struggle with is thinking about the last question. So whatever the case scenario was, say if I wasn't really sure about the answer, when I went to go look at the next question, my mind is still thinking, was this answer right that I gave before? Maybe I should have given this answer. Did I do such and such? And so I couldn't fully concentrate on the next answer. And so I was telling ChatGPT about that. Another thing that I struggled with is just wanting to hurry up. Like when I started getting tired, my brain was like, okay, hurry and read, and then read the answers and then pick. And I was finding that the things that I was getting wrong, it was because I hadn't fully read, right? Which is why it's important to look back and see like the reasoning, why you picked the answer and then, you can see, oh, I wasn't even looking. They didn't ask me how to do it. They asked me why I would do it, whatever the question may be. And so I began to understand that's a weakness for me. And I began to get concerned about my ability to endure the for the whole time. And so I was telling ChatGPT about it. Girl, ChatGPT was like, Tisha, Tisha, you know this material. ChatGPT was like, this material, your nervous system is just, you have to regulate your nervous system. That's how your nervous system responds. It starts reading fast. It starts thinking about the previous question. So here are some tips to regulate your nervous system. And then it would say like different words that I could say to myself. Breathing. I had discovered on my own that I needed to take a deep breath in and exhale through my mouth before every question to reset myself. So, all right, what's this question talking about? I had to reset myself because I would be wanting to build on all the other stuff. And every question is a fresh new question talking about something completely different. And you need to be paying attention. You need to be able to read the question and understand exactly what it's asking you, looking at specific language and usage that they're using in the question. And you can't do that if you're still thinking about the other question. So the breathing, it taught to me about like maybe what to eat, what type of breakfast to have, what type of stuff not to eat. If you bring snacks, what type of snacks help your brain continue to function, gives you endurance. And so that was really helpful. I feel like that helped me pace the exam, which I think is really important. I think a lot of people have a lot of anxiety going in. It's a big deal. Like, I'm not even going to downplay it. It's a big deal. Like, I can't even work. I couldn't even begin to work if I had not passed this exam. So you could go to school for 2.5 years and then not be able to work in that field if you don't pass this exam. And so that's heavy. That's a weight. And so there's going to be anxiety that comes along with that. Um, and so I knew that that was important, even though I don't present outwardly as an anxious person. It was really good for me to hear ChatGPT say that, like, this is your nervous system. This is your nerves. This is your anxiety. This is how it shows up for you, because it doesn't necessarily show up the same way for everybody. For me, it's like speed reading and like trying to hurry up and, because I'm anxious, I want to just like hurry up and get stuff done because I'm tired, right? And then the other thing that ChatGPT told me about was like, this test is also about endurance. Like, it's also about how do you respond and what do you think when you are stressed and tired, and like, how do you do that? And when I thought about that being a part, possibly, this is ChatGPT telling me, so that possibly being a part of the thinking of the test makers, it made sense to me, because as therapists, we may be managing crisis after crisis after crisis after crisis, right? For days, right? And so, what, how are we going to be thinking when we're tired, right? When we've had to process so much, how are we going to respond? How are we going to know what is best for the next person, right? And so, when I realized that, it also helped shift my feelings towards why we gotta take this test, why we gotta it also helped shift that. And then also, when I thought about, like, this is about safety, like, you pass this exam, passing this exam helps them know that you're a safe clinician, right? That it's not that you're a bad clinician if you don't pass it. Like, I don't believe that, but it's a marker for them to know that, okay, under pressure and endurance, and like, he or she still understands what is the best course of action for this person, because that's a real person. And in the test and in the vignettes, that's like not real person, but in real life, when we out there, these real people. So understanding all of that really helped me have like a greater appreciation. I felt like I understood what was happening, why it was happening, what I needed to give, what I needed for myself to even feel confident, right? And then I just saw, like, as I began to take, so there are two timed exams, but I believe that there are two that are also not timed, that are 180. And so I just started seeing my percentage go up, right? I think I got like 69%, then it went up to like 77%, then it went up to like 79%. And in my mind, I was still kind of like, oh gosh, I need more than the 70. Like, but then somebody from the group, that's why I think this group is important. Somebody said, put in Chat GPT the type of prep that you're taking and the scores that you're getting, and ask it, how does it compare to the scoring for the actual? And they actually was like, wow, this is really good. Like, you're scoring really, really high. People with this score, the probability of them passing is really, really high. And then they were like, normally, whatever you're getting on that prep, there's like a 5 to 10% drop due to anxiety or stress. But even within that drop, you should still be good. And so, I don't believe everything I hear. So I was still doing, especially everything ChatGPT tell me. But it was encouraging, I should say. And it builds my confidence. And it was like, okay, well, Tisha, you do have the foundational knowledge. You do understand certain things. And now you just have to be able to take the test and understand what the test makers are asking of you. And so all of those things was just a part of my journey, right? And everybody's journey is different. But I did want to share my journey, right? And so you can craft it however you need to craft it for yourself. Those were the resources that I used to help me. And Yeah, the last thing I would say, so for me, I wanted my test to in the state that I live in, they allow us to take the exam in our last quarter of school. So as long as we're on cue to graduate, and we're in our last quarter, then we're able to take the exam. And I wanted to take my exam in a line, like when I would get my results with the same time period that I would actually get my degree, so that there would be less of a gap between me being able to work. And so, yeah, that was my plan. Um, and I'm so glad. I'm so glad that I did that, because now I can just like move forward in my career. And so what would I say? Okay, so real quick, I wanted to add this part about the weight. So everybody that I spoke to, so after you take the exam, you do not get the results right away. There is like about 20 days after the exam period closes before you get your results. Um, I got my results before the 20 days, which was cool. But that waiting, I learned something about myself. I think that I was so focused on like studying for this test, taking this test, studying for this. I had put no thought into how I'm going to deal with not knowing if I passed it or not for weeks, for like 3 weeks. Um, and so I think I just, to make a long story short, I would say for me, there is something about the weight. I Now in hindsight, I appreciate the weight because it strengthened my faith and it caused me to reevaluate some things, like what I believe, what I know about myself, um, who I am, whether I pass the test or not. Like it just required me, and then also required me not to idolize this test, right? Because a lot of energy, a lot of focus, a lot of attention for months, right? It really geared up in the past 3 months, but I kind of had been doing this for like 2 years, right? So it caused me to really examine, like, Letitia, are you idolizing this? Has this become an idol of some sort? I know it's important, but you've done it, you've taken it, put it to the side, and now be present in what is next and what you have going on. And I found that to be very, very challenging. Um, and so it was good for me. It was good for me to wait. It was good for me to sort through that and get clarity on that. And I will say the day that I found out about my score, that morning, I was driving somewhere and I had said to the Lord, said to myself, I was like, you know what? What's done is done. What's done is done. That's done. I got other things that I need to be focused on, that are bigger than this thing, that bigger in the sense that require more of my attention. Like this has gotten a lot of my attention, and even during this time when I'm supposed to be resting or restoring myself, I'm battling in my mind. Did you do well? What did you do? Did you answer that question right? Did you do like it was just so stressful, and so I had to release it. I had to let it go. And I tell you, that was the day that I let it go. And as funny as God is, He's like, and this is the day I'm gonna tell you passed. And so super excited about the next steps. There's stuff to do. For me, I have to apply for fill out the actual application for my license. And so there's some forms I need to complete, some things I need to submit and add on there, my transcripts and stuff like that. And then in my state, they review the applications twice a month. So praying that they review the application, what's today? 10 days from now. So I'm praying that I have everything in except for one thing that I'm waiting for from my school. So I'm praying that that I get that in a timely fashion so that they can review it. I can make that cutoff for them to review it. And then after that, They issue me a license, and your girl will be coming back on here talking about she is a LMFTA, which is a licensed marriage and family therapist associate. And so once that happens, y'all, I will post and I will talk to you about that. What that is like, what that means, all the things. So I hope that this has been helpful. If you do have any questions, I try to check the comments as much as I can. You know, your girl be busy, but I got some time now. I got a little bit of time because I got to wait for the license and stuff to get my license number. So if you have any questions, I will definitely try to answer them. I hope that you are encouraged on this journey. Your journey doesn't have to look like mine, but I just wanted you to know that it's possible. And just share some of the tips, some of the strategies, some of the things that I utilize to make it to the other side. You can make it to the other side, girl. You can make it. You can make it. So just want to offer that encouragement for you.
Woke up this morning, sunshine through the clouds, feeling the healing, laughter all around. Rise up and stand tall, joy in every stride. No more tears to fall, let your spirit guide. Blessed go summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems. Hear the drums calling, dancing to the dawn. Keep on believing, strength in every song. Blessed go summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems. Hear the drums calling, dancing to the dawn. Keep on believing, strength in every song. Blessed go summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems.